Hello, my dears. It's Katie, and I'm here today to tell you about all of the things that I did in March and April, and also to tell you kind of my generalized plans for the things to come in May and June. So, we've got a lot to get through today, and I'm going to do this very similarly to last time, where I started with all the things I hauled, then I talked about all the books that I'd read, and then launched into my reading plans further after that. So, starting with all of the things that I hauled recently, there is quite a bit of stuff that I hauled recently, so bear with me. So, the first thing that I got was City of Strife, and this book sounds really interesting. It sounds kind of Renaissance-y, and it also deals with a plague, and just a whole bunch of stuff that honestly sounds like something I would thoroughly enjoy, and I can't wait to read it. Like, I'm literally dying to read it, and I'm so excited to get to it. Then the next thing that I got was Wind Witch by Susan Dennard. This is the second book in the Witchlands series, and actually, as of filming this, I have just started it. I'm not very far yet, but it's a continuation from literally picks up right where the first book left off. For those of you who don't know what the Witchlands series is about, it takes place in a world where all these elemental witches exist. So there are truth witches, wind witches, blood witches, like you name it, you think of it, there are all of these things. And it follows our two main protagonists, Safia and Isolde, and their epic friendship. Like, they literally are a soul friendship, and I love them so much. I'm just so excited to finally get to Wind Witch because I've been trying to get to it for a while, and I'm so glad that I'm going to finally get to it. Then the third thing that I hauled was Sight Witch, which is a novella that is like a prequel to the Witchland series. And then I got Blood Witch, and I don't know much about it except for that it follows Aedwan, and I'm really excited to get to that because Aedwan was one of my favorite characters from the first book, so definitely looking forward to his storyline or whatever the hell happens in that book. So yeah, basically I got the rest of the Witchlands that is currently published, and I'm really excited to get to them. Hopefully I can finish that series up this year. We'll see. And then I got Race to the Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. I'm actually going to read that in May. And if you haven't seen my Believe-a-thon TBR, go check it out because I talk a little bit more about the fact that I'm going to read it there. But it is a Native American fantasy novel that's part of Rick Riordan's Rick Riordan Presents series thing that he does. And I'm just so excited to finally get to it because I've been dying for some really good Indigenous peoples fantasy, or just more Indigenous people's novels that are own voices, and I have high hopes for this one. Hopefully it lives up, and I'm definitely, as I said, looking forward to it. Then I got Dragon Pearl, which is also part of Rick Riordan Presents series. I don't know too much about this one except for I think it's a Korean-inspired world. Basically, just I love diverse fantasy, and it's really frustrating that it takes middle grade. Like, middle grade is incredibly diverse. They do so many things, and it frustrates me to no end that there aren't more adult or even YA fantasies that kind of take place in these places. But anyway, I love that this series exists because I'm just finding more and more things to check out, and I'm literally going to read all of them. So definitely looking forward to getting to that one. Then I got Wondersmith by Jessica Townsend. This is the second installment in the Nevermore series, and I've been trying to read it for a while, and I finally got it. I don't know too much about it except for that it kind of picks up right where the first novel left off, and it's just Morgan going on more crazy adventures, kind of figuring out her powers and whatnot. But I have also heard that it is better than the first one, so I'm hoping that I like it more, and we'll see, because I'm also going to read that in May for Believe-a-thon. And then the next thing I got is Dragon Warrior, or The Dragon Warrior by Katie Zhao. I'm also reading this from Believe-a-thon, but it is a Chinese-inspired fantasy, not part of Rick Riordan Presents, but I'm still excited for it. I don't care. As I said, I love cultural fantasy, especially diverse cultural fantasy. And it takes place like Lunar New Year time period and deals with dragons and things of that sort. And it just sounds like something I'm really going to enjoy. And I'm definitely looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to all of these, let's be completely honest. Then I picked up Small Spaces by Catherine Arden, and I've heard really good things about her middle grade novels that are kind of more spooky, horror-y-esque. And I'm definitely going to read that this fall because it seems like a perfect fall read with all the spooky vibes and everything. I don't know too much about it except for that it is horror, spooky vibe stuff going on, and Catherine Arden. So figured I'd check that one out. And Shelby from Read and Find Out talks about that, or Catherine Arden, but also just the Small Spaces series from time to time on her channel, and that's kind of ultimately what made me want to give it a try. Since horror is not something I typically gravitate towards, I like gothic horror and gothic romance, but not like pure horror. So I'll be interested to see what I think. And then I got The Night Manager by John le Carré, who is a thriller writer, or it's an espionage novel. And le Carré has been on my radar for a while. His novels are pretty well known. Like he did Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy and things of that sort. So that's, I think, a pretty well known one. But The Night Manager is one of his standalone novels, and there was a mini series on about that was based on that novel that was done a couple of years ago with Tom Hiddleston and Hugh Laurie, and I absolutely loved it. So that's kind of made me want to give the book a try. And if I like this one, then I'm probably going to consider picking up some of his others. Thrillers can be a bit of a hit or miss, but because this is an espionage thriller, those I tend to love. So I'm hoping that I love the book as much as I did the miniseries. But we'll just have to wait and see because, as I said, thrillers can be a tricky situation for me. I don't like pure thrillers, but espionage thrillers, we love those. Then I got The Testaments by Margaret Atwood, and this is the sequel to The Handmaid's Tale. I don't know too much about it except for that it is a sequel to The Handmaid's Tale, and I'll be very interested to pick it up, but I do need to be in the right mind space to read it, so who knows when I'll get to it. I'm looking forward to it when I do. And then I got The Lost Queen by Signe Pike. And this is a kind of Arthurian legend retelling or Merlin retelling. I think it follows Merlin's sister or something of that sort. And it has a lot of like Celtic folklore and stuff interwoven in. And that is my jam. So I'm really excited to get to it. Hopefully I can get to it soon. But I'm just super excited to get to that one. And then I rehauled The Secret Garden. I signed up for like a Nook newsletter thing. I downloaded the app and it came free with the app. So I got The Secret Garden and A Tale of Two Cities with it. And I'm really excited about that because I read The Secret Garden from time to time when I was a kid. And I wasn't like the biggest fan, and then I unhauled it, and then now I've kind of been wanting to sort of retry it. So the fact that I just randomly got it with the free Nook app thing is delightful. And then A Tale of Two Cities is a book that I've only read excerpts from. I was supposed to read it in high school, but for some unknown reason, it ended up getting removed from the syllabus. And I was really sad about it because I actually really wanted to read it. And now I am finally, hopefully, at some point going to read it because I do have a soft spot in my heart for Charles Dickens. I've read Oliver Twist, I've read David Copperfield, and as I said, excerpts from A Tale of Two Cities, and of course I've read A Christmas Carol, and I actually had to do a little bit of research into him to write a like a mini biography for him because I was in Oliver Twist. I put quotes around it for a reason. When I was in 6th grade, I think it was, and it was great. So yeah, I really like him. I like his works a lot. So I really want to get to A Tale of Two Cities, and one day it's gonna happen. Don't know when. Hopefully this year, but we're gonna do it. And then I got We the Drowned, and this book is a Viking-centered book of some kind, and all I know is like it follows like a different crews or something, and then like a lot of them die in the ocean or something, and I don't really know much except for that it's Vikings and ships. That is enough for me to be interested because we know I like Norse things and we know that I like ship things, and I like sad things. So this book sounds like something I would really like. So glad we got that one. Then I got Gods of Jade and Shadow, and weirdly enough, this one was one that I was going to read, but I was just going to get from the library because I was unsure if it was going to be something that I loved. But then I was like, it's mythology, and it's interesting mythology. You know what? And then it ended up being on sale, and then I was like, you know what? I'm going to get it. So then I just got it. And I'm excited to get to it because it really does sound like something I'd probably really thoroughly enjoy, and someone I really, really trust with my reading tastes. Like, we have similar reading tastes and everything. Also really, really liked it, so I am more inclined to think that I will like it too. But we'll see. I'm very interested to find out. Then I got His Majesty's Dragon by Naomi Novik. This is a book that has been on my radar for a really long time, or even my TBR for a really long time. And I am going to be reading it with my college friend book club, as it's our next read. Basically, the concept is Napoleonic Wars plus dragons. And just, yes, historical fantasy is one of my favorite subgenres of fantasy, so I'm just so excited to get to it. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited. And then I also got Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. If you guys haven't been following my Goodreads, I have been making my way through Sanderson's work this year, minus Elantris, which I read like 2 years ago, I think it was. But Warbreaker is, I think, a novella or a shorter work that comes after Words of Radiance and before Oathbreaker, whatever it's called. And I don't know, I'm just gonna add it to my Sanderson pile. And I know that out of all of the books, everyone says that out of all of them, the only one you have to read at a certain point is Warbreaker. So we're gonna do that. Cool. And then the last one that I got is The Arcanum Unbounded, which is another Sanderson book. It's a book of short stories that take place in Cosmere, or at least a part of it takes place in Cosmere. And very interested to get to those because I do really love Sanderson's worlds. And I'm always down to have expansion on those worlds. So those are all of the books that I have actually hauled in the last 2 months. It's weirdly enough a lot more than I thought. But anyway, here we are. And now it's time to get into all of the books that I have read in the last couple of months. And I should show you my spread. Look at how pretty it's turning out. It's definitely updated from last month's time, and so is this page. I'm coloring in more on those. So since I last left you guys, I've read 19 books. Yes, it's a lot. Some will be talked about less than others. And overall, I'm not going to go into much depth because I did do written reviews for each one of these, and I will leave links to all of those down below so you guys can go read more in-depth thoughts on them. But let's just jump in because I have a feeling that this video is going to be a bit of a long one. The first of those books was The Binding by Bridget Collins. And oh my God, did I love that book. Basic premise of this book is it deals a lot with memory, and it follows our main character Emmett Farmer as he has been bound. We start the book off knowing that he wanted to forget something. Something was so painful for him that he wanted to forget it. And so what you do is you go to what is called a binder, and they extract that memory from you and they bind it in a book, and then they put your name on it. And the art of binding is literally an art. They're not meant to be read because they are like a personal memory of somebody. But there is all of this like politics and subculture of the binding culture. And ultimately, Emmett ends up going to become a binder's apprentice. And things really take off from there. And this book was absolutely stunning, absolutely gorgeous, and I literally cannot recommend it to you guys enough. It is such a good book. I haven't cried that much at a book probably since I read Assassin's Fate. Probably. I can't definitively say that, but I'm pretty sure I haven't cried that hard at a book since I read Assassin's Fate. It was just so emotional and so beautiful, and just it's one of those stories that really sticks with you. It's absolutely one of the best books that I've read this year so far. Also, I do want to say that this book seems to be marketed one way, but you get a very different story, and it's the way that it's split also feels very different. The beginning versus the middle versus the end, they have very different feels to them. So just kind of go in aware that what you think you're going to get is probably going to be something very different, and it is just absolutely incredible. I loved it so much. I should say that I finished The Binding at the very, very end of February. I filmed my last catch-up video kind of in the middle of February, so I didn't encompass everything that I read in February. I should have, but alas, the life choices of Katie. So anyway, then at the very, very beginning of March, I was going to participate in Middle Grade March, and I did, but not to the extent that I was hoping to. But the first book that I did read was The City of Islands by Kaylee Wallace. And I actually really enjoyed this one as well. I got this one as a gift from Shelby from Read and Find Out for Christmas, and it was just a lovely, eerie read. It follows our main protagonist, and she is a sea diver, kind of. She dives for treasure and brings it back to her superior, I guess we'll call them, master, whatever you want to call them. And ultimately, she ends up discovering this lost culture kind of a thing. And kind of what happens from there is just chaos, honestly. But it's so atmospheric and eerie. And I really wish we spent more time in the world. Like I wanted more from it than we got, but at the same time, like I was mostly satisfied with what we got too. But I definitely had a really good time with it. And then the third book that I finished was Well of Ascension, which is the second book in the Mistborn trilogy by Brandon Sanderson. And weirdly enough, I actually liked Well of Ascension. I know a lot of people who find Well of Ascension to be very boring and very drawn out and just kind of middle of the road. But honestly, like, I liked the slower pace. I liked just getting to spend time with the characters and all of the strategic planning, and just basically it's one giant chess game. And I had a lot of fun with it. It picks up, I think, a year after the Final Empire left off. And yeah, definitely really interesting read. I really liked getting to see the expansion of the world and the expansion on the characters' arcs. And just, I don't know, everything about it was just really interesting. I can see why people didn't necessarily like it, but I personally liked it. And then I read Every Heart a Doorway by Shauna McGuire. And this is the first book in the Wayward Children series. I've been trying to read this book for forever. And Shelby put this on my Friends Choose My TBR for the year. And I finally decided to read it, and it was great. I didn't like it as much as everyone else seems to, but I liked it more than I was expecting at the same time. This follows a bunch of characters who live or get sent to this home for wayward children after they come back from these portal worlds, other portal worlds. They're logic or nonsense worlds. And our main protagonist comes back, and while she's adjusting and meeting all these new people, someone she just met ultimately ends up getting murdered. And so it's just kind of like a mixture between like fantasy and murder mystery. So I mean, I really liked the blend. I really liked just the characters that we met and the world and everything, and just the concepts are fascinating. The diversity is unbelievable. But one thing I really didn't like about this book was the murder mystery aspect. I tend to get very bored with murder mysteries unless basically they're Agatha Christie, because I guess the murder and all of that pretty much immediately, and that was the case here. And that part of it detracted from me, but like another part didn't, because I was interested enough in the characters and just their happenings and everything that it wasn't as bad as it could be. But yeah, just that aspect of it did bore me a little bit, like just the guessing of who did it and everything. And then I figured out the motive shortly thereafter. I was just like, okay, that's fine. But I was, as I said, interested enough in the character dynamics that kind of kept driving me. But I will probably pick up the second installment in the series, which I think is, what is it, Sticks and Bones? Which I think is a horror-based one. So we'll see. Maybe that one will come in the fall, along with Small Spaces. We'll see. And then I picked up Saga Volume 2, which is basically just a continuation from the first one. I enjoyed it just as much as the first one, but I found, because I've also read the third volume, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes, I found that the further I go in the series, the sadder I get. So that's kind of where we're at. This one introduces Marco's parents and just kind of that dynamic. It adds another layer to what we originally met, or what we originally saw in the first volume. But yeah, I'm definitely going to keep continuing on with that series, because it's fun, it's quick, it's interesting, and the art style and the graphic novel style is surprisingly working for me formatting wise, because sometimes that can be a problem for me, but it's working for me. So we like that. And then I read another book called Life on the Leash by Victoria Shady, or Shade. I'm not sure how to say the last name. And this is a book that's been on my radar for a while. It's a romance novel, or a contemporary novel that follows the life of a dog trainer, and she kind of like falls in love with one of her clients. And then there's like this other guy, he's kind of like a fix-it guy, whatever, that she interacts with through another one of her clients, and there's this, love triangle situation, and it wanted to be good, but it wasn't. It was not. The characters were all one-dimensional. They had just nothing to them. The plot was predictable, nothing spectacular about it, and I don't know, just there was a lot of toxic stuff in it. Honestly, it really didn't work for me. I literally screamed so many times while reading it because I was just so frustrated with what was happening on page. It just was not working for me. So I mean, it was cute, and I enjoyed all of the dog moments. Like, all of the dog moments made it much more enjoyable, but the characters really did not work. They were all stereotyped, and just, it was not good. And then there was like a whole legal, or not legal, like a lawyer subplot thing, because the guy that she falls in love with, or she thinks she's in love with, or whatever, is a lawyer, and he is obnoxious. And I'm like, this is the reason I hate lawyer / legal subplots. Like, I've just come to the conclusion that because it's something that I do on a day-to-day basis, like it is my job, it is my career, that just seeing it in literature really irritates me because it's often done very poorly. So just, I don't know, I was not a fan of it. I don't read a ton of contemporaries, but I know enough that like this is not great. And I do feel bad because it is a debut, but yeah, it just didn't work for me. But it might work for you guys. So if it sounds interesting to you guys, I'd say check it out. Can't hurt. And I did read that on Scribd, because Scribd is doing like this free trial thing or like opening up their library for free for a month. So I read a couple of things on there actually, and had a good time. After Life on the Leash, I read Princess Ever After by Katie O'Neill. It was a short graphic novel. It was basically taking a fairy tale trope, or just like a fairy tale story, and turning it completely on its head. It was really cute, really fluffy, really delightful, and I had such a fun time reading it. And I would definitely recommend picking it up if you get the chance. I've come to the conclusion that I really like Katie O'Neill and her style and just her format. All of those things seem to really work for me. Plus, I love her diverse casts. They're so lovely. And then I read A Midsummer's Mayhem by Rajani La Rocca, which is this cute as hell middle grade novel that is inspired by Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream. So good, guys. And it has baking magic. It was so good. Okay, so basically what this book is about is it follows our main character, and her and her family are of Indian descent. They live in the New England area. I think it might be Massachusetts somewhere. And her father is a food critic, and she's an aspiring baker. And we find out that she is entering a baking contest because she's like, I'm really into this. And she ultimately stumbles upon this boy that she's never met before. They just meet in the forest someday. And their friendship is delightful, first of all. Second of all, like, just so much chaos happens. Like, her father starts acting weird, and a lot of her family members start acting weird, and there's just baking magic. It's so cute, and I love it. I've come to the conclusion that I really love baking magic. It is just one of the most delightful things. ever. And it made me so happy to read this book. Like, it was just so good. And it just put a huge smile on my face when I was reading it. And I want to read more by her. But this was her debut, and like, it was A plus. Absolutely A plus. So definitely go check it out, because I would absolutely 100% recommend it. Kara would also 100% recommend it. She's who I heard it from. Like, please, literally go read this book. It is just delightful. So then I read The Fellowship of the Ring with Kara from Wild Book Garden, Vendi from Caught Between Pages, and Kelsey from Hardback Haven. And we are reading like a large chunk of Tolkien's works over this year, and it is delightful. I'm just having such a wonderful time reading all of this again. It is the perfect time to be rereading them, in my honest opinion. But for those of you who don't know what Lord of the Rings is about, it follows our main protagonist, Frodo Baggins, as he has been tasked to take a ring of power to destroy it. And so he ends up, him and a company of 8 other people go on this journey and go to try and destroy this ring. And that summary does not even do it justice, because there's just so much more to this story than literally what I just said. And I just had the most wonderful time rereading this first leg, and I can't wait to continue on, because like, this is one of my all-time favorite books / series / he's one of my favorite authors. And it's just, I've had a lot of wonderful conversations with people as we've been reading, and I just absolutely loved my reread. And then I read Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson, and this is the last book in the Mistborn trilogy, and I really enjoyed it. It was definitely one of my favorites of his. So far, nothing is beating Elantris for me in terms of just loving it across the board. But I did really like Hero of Ages. It was a really great conclusion to a good trilogy. And it took some interesting twists and turns that I wasn't quite expecting, but some I was. So I had a nice balance there. I really liked how a lot of people's arcs wrapped up. I don't know, it was just really, really fascinating. And I'm really glad I finally read that trilogy and can just continue on. So yeah, definitely had a really great time with that one. And then I read Saga Volume 3, and once again, I enjoyed it. But as I said earlier, I got sadder as this series is going on. I'm still really enjoying the story. I'm really enjoying a lot of the character arcs. I'm still enjoying the artwork, and just the overarching themes and just everything. It's just a really, really interesting series, and not really having a super hard time reading it. But I'm enjoying it, and I'll be interested to see what happens when I get to Volume 4. Then I read The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas, finally. You guys know, or maybe you don't, but I've put that book on so many TBRs, saying I was going to read it and then just didn't read it for one reason or another, mostly because I didn't think I was in the right headspace. And I mean, I wasn't in the right headspace this time either, but I was like, you know what, I'm determined to read this book. And I absolutely loved it. It really made me think in a way that I haven't in a long time while reading a book. It makes you think in a different kind of a way, and it's a very powerful and inspiring read. And it just really gives you a really interesting insight into what the Black community goes through on a day-to-day basis. It follows our main protagonist, Star, as she watches one of her childhood friends get shot in the back 3 times by a cop, and it's basically everything that happens after that, going to the police and speaking out, and ultimately what inspires her to kind of take part in what is a very good portrayal of what the Black Lives Matter movement is. And oh my God, it really did impact me in a lot of ways, and I really, really enjoyed my read through of it. Now, one thing I would like to mention, because a lot of people bring it up all the time, is when I was looking at like reviews of people that I know, like after I read it, some people were talking about how they wanted to see the trial aspects of it more. And I have a couple of things to say about that because I know a little bit about the process. And Andy Thomas did a really good job at portraying certain aspects of the legal system. There were some things I had issue with, minor things, but from a lawyer's perspective, like I was like, this is not quite right. But okay, I'll let it slide. The way that they described it in the book was that it was a grand jury proceeding. So the way that it works in the criminal avenue of everything is you can indict someone or charge someone in 3 different ways. And one of those ways is a grand jury proceeding. And literally all it is it's a body that is being picked and put into a room. They listen to the evidence. The public is not allowed in. Most attorneys are not allowed in. It is literally question and answer kind of a situation. I'm dumbing it down a lot. And so, I mean, it's not a trial. It is before you get to trial. It is just deciding to proceed with the cause of action against this person. So when they say they want to get to see more of the trial, there wasn't a trial because they didn't get to that point. That's minor spoiler territory, but you guys probably knew that already. If you just watch the news and watch similar situations unfold, it's basically the same thing, but from a different perspective. So yeah, they didn't even go through with in choosing to indict the officers so that they could continue on to trial. It was just the pre-part. So I thought I'd clarify that for anyone who was expecting something a little bit different. But yeah, no trial. Didn't exist. So, great. Moving on. Then the next book that I read was A Dash of Trouble, which is the first book in the Love, Sugar, Magic trilogy by Anna Mariano. And I loved this book. Another baking magic book. In case you don't know, like, it's my new favorite thing. Another Kara recommendation, by the way. She's just spot on with her recommendations, always. Definitely go check her out if you haven't already. But this follows our main protagonist, Leo, owns a bakery, and the first book takes place around the time of Dia de los Muertos, or the Day of the Dead, and she ultimately finds out that her family are brujas, or witches, and she wants to know more about this, and so she ends up getting herself into a lot of trouble by experimenting and just getting into all kinds of crazy messes. But it's just delightful. The family dynamics in this are phenomenally done. I really loved the cultural aspects as well, and I got to practice my Spanish for the first time in like 15 years. I haven't taken Spanish since 8th grade, guys. It's been a while. But I did take Spanish from a pretty young age, and it was conversational Spanish, so I mean, like, I have a lot of the knowledge still there, but it's been a long time. So it was really nice to just get a chance to kind of refresh, at least in tiny bits. And I found that I wasn't too shabby, but yeah, I just had a really great time with this book. Just the friendships and, as I said, the families and everything, all great. Anyway, loved that. Then I also ended up finishing Inner Simplicity by Elaine St. James. This was a reread for me, and it was a book that I read with my parents every night at dinner. We would read a chapter a night, and it's all about 100 ways to simplify your life. And I read this back, I think, in 2017 or 2018, somewhere in there. And I had a different experience with it this time. I still thought this was a middle of the road book. Some of the chapters really worked for me. Some of them really didn't work for me. But, I did get more out of it this time than I did on my initial read, probably because I read it slower and I talked about each chapter afterwards. But yeah, no, it's an interesting book. It's an interesting book, and I don't want to say I'd recommend it, but it could be interesting to check out if you are interested in simplifying your life in some way, shape, or form. It gives some really good tips, some not great ones, but you can figure out what those are for you, because what they are for me might not necessarily compute to what they would be for you. But yeah, definitely an interesting reread, and had a good enough time with it. And then the next book that I read was A Sprinkle of Spirits, which is the second book in the Love, Sugar, Magic series. And this takes place a few months after the initial one, and kind of expands on the world. Leo has kind of found, she's been initiated, and she's, starting to learn a little bit more about magic. And I loved the introduction of additional magic in here, and just the deepening of her relationships with her family members. And it was just, I don't know, I actually liked this one more than the first one, which is not unusual for me, but it's, can be unusual for some people. But I really liked the second one a whole lot, and I can't wait to get to the third one, but I can't get my hands on that one yet because it just came out recently, I think. And my library is very behind on absolutely everything, and or never gets things in ever. So we'll see when I get to read it. Hopefully it's at some point, but who knows. And then I started reading The Alloy of Law, which is the first book in the second generation or second era Mistborn. And this has a Western setting for this part of the world. And I liked it more than I thought I would. I love Wax and Wayne and their dynamic so much. They're just delightful. And the other characters are interesting as well. But, my main issue was that, at least the first book did not fit in very well with the Mistborn world. It just felt very removed from that. The magic system is the same, but that's it. I just felt like there were very little tiebacks to it. It just felt very jarring compared to what the first trilogy was. And I know I probably would have liked it more if it's kind of its own thing. Still within the world, but its own thing. So yeah, that was kind of my general thoughts on the first book. And then I read another one of my favorite books of this year, An Assassin's Guide to Love and Treason by Virginia Becker. It takes place during Elizabethan England, kind of towards the end of her reign, so early 1600s, and it heavily focuses on the Protestant versus Catholic tension and persecution of Catholics during that time period in England, and also follows a Shakespeare play. And that play is Twelfth Night. And it is so fitting. This is the perfect play for this book. And honestly, more people should read this book seriously. Seriously read it. And it is about these two main characters, Kit, or Catherine, or Kit, and Toby. And they are on kind of opposite sides throughout the majority of this book. Catherine / Kit is a Catholic. She's a closeted Catholic. She watches her father get murdered, and she journeys to London to join up with a crew of conspirators to try and plot and murder the Queen. Toby is a spy for the Queen. He's had quite an interesting life, and basically both sides are kind of they kind of know a little bit about what's going on with the other side, but ultimately Toby gets enmeshed in this portion with Shakespeare to write a play to try and get the Catholics to come out and be part of it, because they know that there's a plot against the Queen, but they don't know enough. So Toby's job is to kind of try and scope out everybody and give a list to the Queen of who to arrest and whatever. Kit tries out for the play, and basically Kit and Toby, we have some romance stuff, we have some friendship stuff, and things kind of go from there, because Kit is also disguised as a man, because it is very dangerous for her, not only for her identity but for her as a woman, to be around during that time. So it's just so good, and I mean that, so good. It's so good, so delightful, so wonderful. And I literally cannot recommend this book enough. I was so engrossed, and all I wanted to do was read this book, and I had such a wonderful time reading it. And then the next book that I finished was Shadows of Self, which is the second book in the second generation or second era Mistborn trilogy. And I liked this one more than the first one. It just tied a lot more to original Mistborn and had a lot of plot points that were similar to original Mistborn, and it just really worked for me. And just continuing to expand on the Wax and Wayne shenanigans. I love them. I love their dynamic a whole lot. I mean, I like a lot of the side characters as well, but I really like their dynamic a lot. And I had a lot of fun with it, and I am looking forward to continuing on with Bands of Mourning, which I should be picking up relatively soon. And then I also finally finished The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. And I'm really glad I read this book, but honestly, it really, unfortunately, was not for me. As I've kind of talked about over the last bit, I've struggled with sci-fi for whatever reason. Like, I love it in visual format, so like movies, TV shows, things like that. I love sci-fi, but for some reason in books, I really struggle with it. And I do really think I could have liked this book if it wasn't written in vignettes and the characters were expanded upon and we got to know them, because like I literally had zero connection to pretty much any of them. And the plot was just very disjointed. It didn't really flow well for me, but the world building I really did like. That was definitely its strongest aspect for me. But no, I really thoroughly struggled to get through this book. I read it with my college friends book club, and we all had varying thoughts as we went on, but I was pretty consistent with my dislike. I just didn't like it. It really wasn't for me. The majority of the reason was the vignette style and that I just did not connect to anybody. So yeah, if I had a little bit more of that and a little bit more of the fleshing out of the world, I think I could have liked it a lot more, but overall it wasn't for me. I did like the social commentary in it, but I did find that at times it was very heavy-handed. So, I don't know. Just middle of the road, but like on the low end of middle of the road, if you know what I mean. I probably won't continue on with the Wayfarers series and their companion novels. And the last two books that I read, they were not the last two books that I read. They're just the last two books I'm talking about because I don't want to hold up this book for 10 years. I reread Pride and Prejudice, and I read Mansfield Park. I loved my reread of Pride and Prejudice. It was better the second time that I read it. I haven't read it since high school, and I really loved it on this reread. And then I read Mansfield Park, which I didn't love, but I didn't hate. It was just kind of a meh book for me. Definitely not one of my favorite Austens, but it was better than I was expecting it to be because a lot of people don't like it. So yeah, I ended up liking it. And it was the last of Jane Austen's novels I needed to read. So I can now say that I have read all of Jane Austen's novels at least once. Pride and Prejudice has been twice, and then I'm going to reread Emma and Persuasion in the coming months. Really looking forward to Persuasion. I love Persuasion. It's probably tied with Pride and Prejudice and Sense and Sensibility. I don't know my ranking. I will have to think about that. But anyway, yes. Really loved my reread of Pride and Prejudice. Mansfield Park, not quite my favorite, but it did have some interesting aspects to it. I found Fanny to be really relatable to me. I hated the male protagonists. So yeah, I really didn't like Edmund. I also didn't like Henry very much. I don't know. There were just a lot of people. Like, every character in this was despicable, except for Fanny, pretty much, to me at least on my initial read. I'd be very interested to see if that were to change should I reread Mansfield Park. But yeah, all in all, not my favorite of her novels. Definitely not my favorite. And then the last thing that I do want to mention, because I did finish it and I did read it, OMG Check Please, the webcomic, finished, like, completely. It's over and done. And it was the best ending that I could have asked for. I literally smiled for 2 days after I finished it because it was just so good. If you guys have not read Check Please, I'd highly recommend checking it out. It is literally about college life, hockey, and baking. And it's just delightful. I know a lot of people kind of give it a middle of the road rating when they read it, probably because of the, like, bra language, because it is, a hockey frat house. Like, that is literally the setting for the most part. And then Biddle is a baker from Georgia, I think, and he was a former figure skater, and now he's turned into a hockey player. But yeah, just all of that, just delightful. And I don't know, I have a really soft spot in my heart for it because for a lot of reasons, honestly. But definitely check it out if you haven't, because it is, like, the cutest, fluffiest story. I mean, it does have some more serious themes running throughout, but it's done in a fluffy way. If that makes any sense. Anyway, so those are all the things that I've read since I last talked to you. Definitely a great time. And another thing that I ended up doing is I did participate in the Owls, and I did succeed, but I didn't read the things that I said I was going to. So I had to do 3 prompts, and then I added an extra one for like one of the seminars. I did the Mer People Linguistics. So my prompts were history of magic, or to read a book featuring witches or wizards, and for that I ultimately read the Love, Sugar, Magic books. And then I had to read a Muggle Studies book, which is to read a book, a contemporary, and I ultimately ended up reading The Hate You Give for that prompt. And then I had to pick a prompt of my choosing, and ultimately I ended up doing, I think it was potions. I think I did I did oh yeah, I did potions and herbology. Because Potions was Saga Volume 3, which is to read a book under 150 pages. And then Mansfield Park was the herbology prompt, which I also needed for Mer People Linguistics. And that was Mimbless Mimbletonia, to read a book that starts with an M. And I read Mansfield Park for that. So I did ultimately complete all of my owls. So I'm looking forward to the newts. But I just wanted to update you guys on that. I did ultimately complete what I set out to do. I didn't complete everything that I wanted to, because I originally had, I think, 2 others or 1 other on there, and I didn't complete those. Like, I didn't do Wind Witch, which I've now moved to this month, and I didn't do Children of Earth and Sky, which I was going to do for Defense Against the Dark Arts. It just didn't fit in with my monthly plans for some reason. So hopefully I get to those at some point. And then now I can just talk to you guys a little bit about what I'm planning on doing in May and June. So in case you guys haven't seen already, I am participating in the Believe-a-thon, which is happening from May 11th to May 22nd, I think it is, or the 24th. One of those 2 dates. And if you guys haven't seen my TBR for that, I will link that down below. But I'm really excited for that. It's just going to be a really great time. It's a readathon dedicated to all the middle grades. And I'm just so excited to get to it. And then in June, I am participating in this new readathon that I am so beyond excited for. It's called Make Your Myth Taker, I think. Yeah, Make Your Myth Taker. And it's, I can't describe it properly, but basically, like, the way to describe this is a combination of the Bookie Trials and the Owls. So it's like you pick a category of a character and you read the prompts based on those in order to achieve that character. But like, you create your own character, or you can like recreate another character from a series or something. And literally, I want to do all of them. Like, literally all of them. But ultimately, what I'm thinking of doing, don't hold me to this, I don't know if it's going to be solidified or set in stone or anything, is the assassin / royal spy path. And I will probably base all of my books on Fitzchivalry Farseer, because he is my small child. And like, that series means so much to me that it would be really difficult for me to not do those. Plus, the prompts for that route really interest me, and I actually have things that fit. Like, there are other ones that I want to do, but I don't necessarily have things that fit, so I don't know. We'll see, but I am so excited to get to them. I'm so excited. So, yes, please. Then, another thing that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be finishing up the last 2 novels for Austen Anonymous. We have Emma in May, and then we have Persuasion in June. I'm so excited to get to them. Just, yes. Particularly Persuasion, because I love Persuasion. And so I'm going to do that. And I'm continuing my buddy reads with Kara, Kelsey, and Vendi. We're continuing on with the Two Towers leg. We're actually about halfway through Two Towers at the moment, or at the moment of filming. So we're making good progress. And then I am also continuing my buddy read with Vendi, and we're reading Royal Assassin. We kind of put it on pause for a couple of months just because of chaos in our lives and whatever else was going on. But I think now we're hopefully going to be continuing on. I don't know if I'll finish it or not, but hopefully. And then I'm going to continue reading more Sanderson books, because I'm buddy reading that with one of my college friends. And then my college friends book club, different friends, are going to be reading His Majesty's Dragon, which is the first book in the Timur series, and like Napoleonic Wars, plus dragons. Yes, please. And then probably continuing on with the Return of the King. So I've got some plans, loose plans, lots of buddy reads as per usual. And I'm really excited to just get to all of them. Just a lot is happening right now. Just across the board, just a lot is happening. So that's where we're at. That is kind of my catch-up and general plans for the next couple of months. Let me know if you guys have read any of the books that I've mentioned today or are planning on reading them. Just leave a comment down below. But other than that, you guys know the drill. I have all of my social media links down below, and despite the fact that I am technically still hiatusing, I am still on Twitter. I go on about once a week, and I am still frequently going on Goodreads to update things and whatnot, so I am most active over there. So yeah, both of those links are down below. Other than that, I hope you guys are staying safe and generally doing well during this crazy, chaotic time. And I will catch you in another video for you guys again soon. Bye!